So our last section on this front side of the page is ordering real numbers. So when we're ordering real numbers, going back to what we learned about the real number system, we need to change every number to a decimal before we order them. And we change them to decimals because when we think about money, it's easier to compare numbers when it's in decimal form as opposed to fractions and things like that. It's a lot easier to convert them into decimals and a lot easier to compare them that way. So that's why we do it that way. So ascending order, you need to remember, is least to greatest, and descending order is greatest to least. So here I have an example where I have 5/10, square root of 81, 5.4, and -9. The only ones I need to change is the square root of 81. We know that's 9 because 9 times 9 is 81. And then 5/10 is 0.5 because I know I can simplify that to 1/2, and 1/2 is 50% or 0.5 of a number. So once I have those changed, then I just go ahead and list them. And here I have them listed in the ascending order. Now remember, when you see it on the test, they will always keep their original form. So square root of 81 will still be the square root of 81. So changing it just helps you to order them. But when you're looking for the answer on the paper, you need to go ahead and convert it back to the original form that they gave you. That way you know you're looking for the correct answer. Okay, so here are some tips on the back of your page. It says to pace yourself. Don't sit too long on one problem. That's really important. I know I told you guys that I'm not really a math person. I kind of fell into math, but I work very hard at it to be good at it. And when I took my praxis exam in order to become a math teacher, certified math teacher, what I did was I would work on a problem. If I felt like I didn't know it or something like that, I would circle it and I would come back to it. And I found that when I came back to it, it was a lot easier to work the problem. So don't spend too long sitting on a problem or trying to think of it. If you don't know the answer or you're struggling or you try to get the answer and your answer choice is none of the ones given, circle it and move on, right? And a good thing to do always is to go back and check your answers too. When I was taking my praxis, when I went back and checked over my answers, there were at least 5 or 6 problems that I changed. And I was like, how in the world did I make that mistake? And that could have been the difference between me passing this test that I had to pay $120 to take or failing it and having to pay another $120. All right. So always go back and check your answers. Going back and checking your answers is not going back and making sure you bubbled everything. It's not going back and making sure you answered everything. It's not just flipping through the book to look like you're checking your answers. Go back and retake the test. Go back, especially on the problems where you know you struggle, go back and pretend as if you never saw that problem and rework the problem. There is no time limit. There is no reward for getting done faster, and you have to wait until the whole class is finished anyway. So why just sit there and waste that time with your head down when you could actually be still working on your test? And a lot of times that's the difference between making a 2 and making a 3, or making a 3 and making a 4. When I was looking at the EOG scores, a lot of people were just a couple of questions away from the next level. So just taking that time to go back and catch those mistakes could be the difference. And remember, your high school is looking at your EOG scores, right? So we've made recommendations of what you should do, but the high school has said everyone who makes a 3 or higher will automatically be put in Math 1. Anyone who does not pass the EOG may be taken out of Math 1. They're going to look at everything else you've done. So just because your schedule says Math 1 doesn't mean it's going to stay Math 1, because they want to make sure they're giving everybody an opportunity to be successful in 9th grade. So really take that time. I know every single person in this room is capable of making a 3. Making a 3 is getting 50% of the test right. Every single person in this classroom can get 50% of a 60 question test right. So that's only getting 30 questions out of 60. You guys do better than that on every test you get. So just think of this as a longer test. Go back through, pace yourself. Don't forget to check your answers. Don't discount eating a good breakfast, brain food, and getting sleep the night before. Don't stay up playing Fortnite. Don't stay up texting or on Snapchat. Get some rest, because that can mean the difference of doing well and not doing great. And just believe that you will do great. A lot of things come down to mindset. Don't overthink things. Don't go into it thinking you're going to fail. Go into it knowing you're going to pass. Go into it knowing that you have everything it takes in order to pass this test. Because if you have that mindset, you will pass the test. But if you think you won't do it, you won't do it. There's a lot of studies that have been done on growth mindset. You can YouTube it or look it up. But I promise you that makes a difference. So if you remember these tips along with the things on this one pager, you should do wonderfully. Okay, back to math. Here's an equation. Now, this is a multi-step equation. You might have some equations that are in word problems that you might need to set up. That might make it a little bit harder. But here I just wanted you to remember the main steps. So every single time you're looking at an equation, you need to distribute if it's possible. There's parentheses there. You need to combine like terms. Then you need to solve for the variable, and then you can check your answer. The great thing about equations is you can always plug the answer back in and see if you got it right or wrong. So equations, there's really no reason to get it wrong, right? Because you can check yourself and see if you got it right. Systems of equations, our favorite unit. Yay! So here I just gave you one example, and this is the one for remembering how to put it in your graphing calculator. Because of all of the ones to do, I'm sure this will be the easiest one to remember. So remember, when you're putting it into your graphing calculator, you need to go to y equals, put in your equations, and then press second trace 5, enter, enter, enter. And then it'll give you the solution to your equation. If you didn't do so well on systems of equations, don't stress it. I don't know how many problems there'll be up there. I know equations kind of takes up a big chunk, but it's including the multi-step equations, systems of equations, and linear equations and functions. So that's kind of everything there, and that's the biggest part of 8th grade. So if it helps, go back and look at those videos on Google Classroom. We're going to be doing some unit reviews when we come back from track out to kind of prepare you guys. So don't stress out if this wasn't your best unit. Finding the distance between 2 points. So here you're just going to create a right triangle on graph paper between these 2 points, and then go back and use the Pythagorean theorem to find the distance between them. And remember, I put the Pythagorean theorem formula here again, and we went over it on the front side, and that's something you definitely need to commit to memory, because you will definitely see it on the EOG. Our laws of exponents. So when you multiply with exponents, you add. Divide with exponents, you subtract. Any number to the 0 power is 1, always 1. Power to a power, you multiply it out, and negative exponents 1 over it. Guys, literally, this song, I know it was corny, but if you commit it to memory, you will do great. And remember, Miss Kelly said one of her students actually had to use it in high school, so it doesn't go away. Learn it now, commit it to memory now, and you'll be fine. I put examples down there at the bottom to show you exactly what to do as well. So you can press pause and work those out and write them down on your paper. Square roots and cube roots. Remember, you should know at least the first 15 perfect squares and the first 6 perfect cubes. When you get these on your test, they'll be calculator inactive problems. So it's good to go ahead and commit at least these 15 and 6 to memory. Putting things in slope-intercept form, or just knowing slope-intercept form. When you're given an equation in slope-intercept form, you need to always remember that the m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept. So in this example, our slope is 2 and our y-intercept is 3. And the y-intercept tells us where the line crosses the y-axis. So here our line will cross the y-axis at 3, and our slope is 2. So it goes up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and this will be a positive line. Angles of triangles. We haven't done this for a while, but remember when we learned that our 2 interior angles, the angles that are far away, equal that 1 exterior angle. So when we're looking at this, if we're solving for x, we know that a plus b is going to equal c. Those 2 angles that are further away will always equal the angle that's on the outside. So in this case, I am subtracting 50 from 120, and I get 70. And I can check myself because 50 plus 70 is 120.